Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast with your host, Lorna Poole, sharing the secrets to creating wealth, investing, and that all-important money mindset. To find out more and accelerate your journey to financial freedom, head on over to www.lornapoole.com to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast. What are the biggest mistakes people make when they take out a personal loan and why? My guest expert today is Hina Chowdhary. She is director at Kalkine and she helps in equity research for Kalkine. Hina, great to have you here.
Thanks, Lorna. Thanks for this opportunity.
Why do we make mistakes with loans and what are the mistakes?
So, Lorna, I want to begin by saying that of late we are seeing a lot of changes when we talk about debt consolidation.
Mm-hmm.
People do say that, it's still growing as a weed or, there's a calculative approach which comes in picture. So, I will begin by talking more about what kind of loans people go in for. So whether you talk about $100 to $100,000 with fixed or variable interest rates. So there are different kinds of loans people get into. Maybe, they are looking for something to be purchased or just a consolidation of debt. But what they forget sometimes is around what kind of pointers or what kind of tips they should be clear with when they're going ahead for some kind of debt consolidation or going ahead for a loan. So, what we target as mistakes while taking a loan, I would probably start by saying that whether they have done sufficient research on available options. Now, when I say that, Lorna, a lot of things have changed these days. What we are also hearing is about COVID hardship loans, right? So,
okay, what are COVID hardship loans?
Yes. So, Lorna, this is something which we have been listening about from different banks. For example, if I take the example of US Bank, now they have kind of reduced the loan, pricing as in from $12 maybe to $6. But what they're trying to fit in is someone who is trying to claim that, because of coronavirus, something got impacted or I'm unable to fulfill my requirement at personal front. So they're tagging it as under coronavirus hardship loan. Again, there are no regulations per se coming into picture, but then it's a type of loan which is in the making. And whereas fintechs, or I should say credit ecosystems, are evolving around this concept that, should we be having something which is under a hardship loan, which people can avail under this coronavirus scenario. So, as I said, that, it's a type of situation which has led to this kind of loan coming up. And we are looking at, personal loans being differing when you talk about lending institutions. So when you say that, coming back to the point that have you done the research correct? Have you shopped around? Have you seen what kind of lenders are there? What kind of loans they are offering? And, if you are looking at some instant approval personal loans, that have you checked the interest rates? So like when we talk about COVID hardship loans, for example, have you seen what are the kind of, prices you will have to pay when you go in for such kind of a loan, and whether this loan actually exists under the regulatory parlance. So I think a lot of research is required at the moment. People are trying to figure out what best suits them, but I think research is what people sometimes lag in when they look out for available options.
The COVID loan, right? How much interest rate are they roughly?
So it's, something in the lower side of stuff. Maybe, some single digits around 5%, 6%. But again, I think various institutions are still looking at what can feature into the regulatory part of COVID hardship loans. So I think still, the financial institutions are struggling with figuring out, should we be allowing such kind of loans and what should be the interest rate parlance? So maybe it can be, somewhere on the lower single digit, maybe 2% or 5%. But again, different regulatory parlance have to be looked at when you're talking about this kind of hardship loan.
Right. So one of the mistakes is looking at the type of loan you're getting and the interest rate, right?
Yes. And, moving on to the second thing, which plays a very important role, is the credit rating that you carry. Like, sometimes you have a lot of debt or your credit score is not that good. So, what is the eligibility criteria to go for a personal loan? Have you really checked those things around? See, because anyone's, personal loan eligibility would kind of also reflect what is the credit scoring, and then what is the kind of trustworthiness you as a borrower can have when you are negotiating in terms of interest rates, or you want the banks or financial institutions to lower down the interest rate. So I think neglecting credit rating sometimes does not favor. So people really need to figure out that what kind of credit rating or score they have per se.
Why is neglecting your credit rating important to you? Like, I have heard that if you have a bad credit rating, you'll have a loan with higher interest.
So that's why you should not be neglecting the credit rating. Rather, you should look at, whether you can repay the loans, and whether, you charted out a plan for repaying those loans. What is the schedule which you have set aside for yourself? So I think financial positioning kind of goes back to your credit rating. So the better you rate in terms of your credit score, your eligibility in terms of getting a loan improves. So that's what, the message I would probably want to give here.
Yeah. So it's type of loans, because I've heard of, I don't know if they're in Ireland. I've never really researched it. I've never had one. There's really bad loans out there, and loan sharks, and I've heard of this payday loan and things like that. So during the COVID, perhaps people are behaving more desperate to get money, to get through, just to live, let alone, thinking about their investments or anything like that. It's just, we found ourselves in, circumstances we didn't think we'd be in.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you're right that, people sometimes they do not look at the fine prints to say. And the other mistake they do is that they just keep on applying for different loans. So there are bad loans. You really have to see that what exactly you will fetch out of any particular loan application which you are making. So when I say that you need to look at your credit score, you also need to evaluate multiple lenders at the same time. I mean, are you just restricting yourself to a particular kind of loan, or are you looking at some particular lender because they are vouching for something specific? So I think that also sets aside a framework for you, that whether you have inquired well when you are going ahead for a loan approval or application for that matter. And to be honest, Lorna, credit hungry borrowers, they can sometimes neglect these things. They might not look at the specific frameworks which different lenders have, and any change in the interest rate can take them to a negative level, or on the lower side of things. So I think that we need to set aside for ourselves, that when we're looking at lenders, what exactly we want to come up with, or what exactly we are looking at for applying loans.
And what about another criteria is sometimes how the agreement of the loan, because sometimes we have a plan to pay it back early and the loan doesn't allow you to do that, and therefore you're paying a lot of interest over a longer period of time, and it's costing you more, right?
Absolutely. So that's where, reading through the fine print becomes important. So what are the loan agreement terms and conditions? Are they really complex, or are they, over a long period of time? Are you going to be tied up with the financial institution for a long period of time? So I think when you chart out the plan for yourself, that when will you be in a position to pay back, you also need to chart out the terms and conditions which come with respect to a particular loan. So you can't avoid missing out on minor details in the contract when you're applying for a financial product from a lender. So I think what we need to see is that although this COVID-driven environment has led many people go in for these loans, especially when you look at the employment and unemployment rates in the US lately, I think the debt
So hold on there now, right? You're talking about the US. I live in Ireland and you live in India. So are you talking about in the world, this is a worldwide problem, or is this specifically to the States?
Absolutely. So, employment, unemployment right now because of the COVID, it has, kind of impacted everyone, every sector across the globe. So even if I'm talking about US, or I have some background in the other jurisdictions, what we have seen is that terms and conditions with respect to loans really become an important thing. So COVID has given a scenario wherein many people have gone in for loan applications, and the jargons and the complications around the terms and conditions really need to be seen well when people are looking at loans and they're comparing bad versus good, or what fits their pocket or what fits the bill. So I would put it as that, this is a general guideline, irrespective of the jurisdiction, that we really need to see what are the terms and conditions and how we go ahead in terms of applying for a loan.
I love it. The biggest mistakes, I completely agree with you. Like your credit score, ignoring that, it's going to give you a higher interest loan. You're looking at the lender you're using, reading the fine print, and then the type of loans, okay? So are some loans better than others, worse than others? And, you're a company that handles stocks and equity and everything, like equity research. So are people taking out loans to invest?
Okay, so through Kalkine, it's nothing related to the loan part of, dealing with, one aspect is to talk about equities or equity research, and the other aspect is to talk about how do we, educate people on personal loan or personal finance, or portfolio investment, etc., or portfolio calibration, to put it across. So sometimes people take loans for even investing in equities, let me put it that way. So the thing is that it's a very thin line which we need to understand comes in between a bad or a good loan, because when you are evaluating things, you might miss that thin line or the gray area. So I would say that when you're looking at the specifications of a loan, it's very important to look at which lender you are looking at. Is that someone who, which has a good financial capability in terms of their history when they are giving away loans, or their own credit scoring, or their own capital positions? Because that will help one person to decide that, whether I'm protected from all angles and I will not be having any changes in the terms and conditions or anything which is illegitimate when I'm applying for a loan. So I think it's also about credibility of the financial institution one is evaluating. And the other thing on the borrower side, if I have to talk about, under-reporting of existing debts, I think that's one thing, people miss out on. They might be applying for 5 loans and they might not, bring that picture up that, I have these existing debts or future debts, which I've, already applied for. So misinformation or incomplete information can also erode the scenario when you're looking at a personal loan application. So, that's an important part. And the last but not the least, I would probably touch upon the repayment capacity, because these they stay the same across the globe. So do you have enough capability, or when you're borrowing a sum, it's really imperative that have you taken a consideration, or have you looked at whether you'll be able to repay the loan, whether it is through EMIs or some other mechanism, and you do not get into any unnecessary long tenure, which is anyways going to pump up on the interest payout. So going for tenures which you really can afford, at least for the time being, or at least, looking at the short to medium term scenario. So that's an important aspect.
That's very important. And thank you for mentioning that. We've had an amazing conversation. For anyone listening to this and they find themselves, looking for a loan or in a situation with the loan they currently have, what would you say to them?
So I think the key takeaways, if I have to put across, Lorna, these are how you can look at, mechanisms to boost credit score. That will be the first thing, because I started from the other side of the story, that your credit score defines many things. So how can you boost that? If you're looking for mortgage loans with a low credit score, then you can try and approach a conventional bank. So, or an online lender, because things are easier with digitalization. So I think to look at how can you boost your credit score, first of all. Second thing, as I said, which kind of broker, which kind of lender suits you the most, given the lockdown situations we have been in, although there are a few restrictions which have been uplifted. But again, do you want to go into the digital side of stuff, because that's helping out everyone, whichever sector you take in the financial domain. The second thing would be that, do you have a co-applicant who has a good credit profile? I think that can really help, borrowers to go in for a joint loan, because that sets aside a stable income charter or your, satisfactory repayment capacity in a way. Not completely, but in a way. Then how quick you are in submitting documents. I think if people start looking at these things, they can, do away with a lot of time they lose in getting the loan approvals. And of course, if you have a job loss kind of a scenario, which we have seen across the globe, then how can you contact your creditor on time to let him know or let them know this is the scenario, and how best you can schedule your loan repayments and preserve cash.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to mention, that sometimes the thing we least want to do is actually phone the loan company and say, this is my situation, but that will work in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Hina, how do we find out more about you? And thank you for this amazing conversation.
Thanks, Lorna. I would just, put it across that the point where I started, it's not a weed growth. It can be a calculative approach. If you have all your arms and ammunitions put in place together and you're prepared for what you're going ahead with.
Perfect. Do you have a website?
Yes. So any information which you're looking for on the personal finance front, we have Kalkine Media, which can be referred to. And our educational sector keeps on touching upon this segment quite often. Otherwise, we have kalkine.com, the subscription website, wherein we talk about stocks, whether they are from different facets of life, financial to mining, etc. So I think Kalkine Media is the one where people can go to and have a look at different segments which we cover.
Thank you, Hina, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Lorna. Pleasure talking to you.
Hey everyone, remember to join us in the Private Financial Freedom Podcast Facebook group with me, your host, Lorna Poole. This is a safe haven of like-minded wealth-getting go-getters who, like you, are on their journey to creating financial freedom in their life. This is where you and I can get intimate. I can give you the support and guidance to go from where you are now to where you want to be, developing your wealth mindset and creating your financial freedom life. Join at www.facebook.com/groups The Financial Freedom Podcast. You will see the links to this on the website. It's in the show notes, or type it into the Facebook group. All you have to type in is Financial Freedom Podcast and you will see us there. Look forward to seeing you in the group. Take care. Thank you for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, to creating wealth, investing, and developing your money mindset. To get started today on your journey, head on over to www.financialfreedom.com www.lornapoole.com and grab your free course, 5 Steps to Breaking Free from Your Poverty Mindset and Accelerating Your Journey to Financial Freedom. See you there.